This next stitch is a tabby or plain weave stitch. I am going to be using just some wool yarn that's a little bit chunkier. I'm going to measure out 4 lengths of this just to get me started. I'm going to cut. This is something that you could do with your fingers. I'm going to use a needle. I'll thread my weaving needle. I like to use a longer needle that can go a longer distance when I'm weaving instead of a shorter one, but a short one is nice for stitching in ends later on. Sometimes I like to knot it on there just so it doesn't fall off. All right, I'm gonna start from this end, and tabby or plain weaving is basically just remembering to go over, under, over, under. It doesn't matter which one you start with, but whatever you do start with, you need to do the opposite. So I'm over, under, 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 and then I can pull my string through. I'm going to leave a tail at the end that I can stitch in later on. Anytime that I do a tabby, I like to do what's called bubbling, where I have kind of this arch, kind of like a rainbow. Do a little bit of strumming. It helps loosen up that thread, and then I'm gonna push it up in the middle, kind of creates these more arches or more bubbles, and then slowly push it the rest of the way in. And that just helps not pull the string too tight, and it will help later on to not have your strings, your warp strings, start to get pulled in. When I turn around, I need to remember that if I was under, I have to make sure I go over. And then I'm going to continue that pattern doing the opposite of what that last one was, over, under, over, under, over, under. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull through. What I like to do is kind of hold this string here so it's not going to pull too tight. Make sure that's just kind of gently wrapping around that, not too tight, not too loose. I'm going to make that arch again. I'm going to strum a little bit to help loosen up those strings in the center, the sides, and help press them up. And just making sure that I'm not getting too tight on my sides. I'm going to come back again, making sure I do the opposite of last time. It was under, so I'm going over, and then continuing that pattern to make it the opposite as I go through. Pulling along, not too tight, not too loose on the edge there. Make my bubble, strum, push up in the middle, the sides, and then I can finish up. I can get one more out of there. So over, under, over, under. If I were to run out of thread right in the middle of my weaving, I can always just untie, tuck it down in the middle of my weaving, wherever it would need to be, however long it was, push up, and then get a new length of string and just continue from right there. And then later on, I could tie those strings together in the back. So I can always just keep on going from where I was. But I think I can make that finish up the rest of the way, and then I'll be able to stitch that in at the end.